All right, guys. So, since we are all staying at home, we thought that we would bring you some New York stories, right? I know that we can't be in New York right now and out and about in the streets, but some stories might be fun to tell people, right? So, today I wanted to share the story about Philippe Petit. And I'm actually going to tell you the story rather than read it because I think it's more interesting. Now, guys, look at me. I'm right here. Hi. Hi. Oh.
Can I sit on your lap?
What's that? Sure, Cassie, you can sit on my lap. So you gotta look at me, guys. So Philippe Petit, guys, was a 24-year-old French kid living in France. Now, I know 24 years old sounds probably pretty old to you, but to an old fart like your dad, it's pretty young. And Philippe Petit was a tightrope walker. Do you know what a tightrope walker is?
Someone that walks on a tightrope.
Somebody that likes to walk on a little rope, right? And Philippe Petit loved to look for places to put his wire so he could walk. And one day he was sitting at home watching TV and watching the Twin Towers in New York City rise up into the sky. And he thought to himself, oh my God, that is like the best place to put a tightrope. And he decided to come here in 1974 with some friends before those buildings officially opened. And he decided to sneak in and disguised as a construction worker and put his tightrope across those two buildings. Do you guys want to try that?
Yeah.
You do? What? Don't you ever think about trying that? Him and his friends snuck into the buildings at night. And they went up to the 110th floor and they shot a tightrope across both buildings with a bow and arrow. And they anchored that tightrope. And the next morning, New Yorkers woke up to see a little tiny Frenchman walking 110 stories above the streets of New York City on a tightrope. Untethered. Do you know what untethered means? That means with not tied in. So if he fell, he would have gone, woo, boom. Now, Philippe Petit did 8 crossings back and forth. Do you know that when the police arrived on the scene, they said they found a man dancing on a high wire? Can you imagine dancing on a high wire? He was up there like this. Philippe Petit said that he eventually lay down on the wire as such. I think there's a picture of him in here laying down on the wire, right? Ah, here he is. There's Philippe Petit laying down on the wire here until he saw a bird flying above him, looking down at him as if he was invading his space. He thought, you know what? Maybe it's time to come in. Maybe we're pushing the gods here. So Philippe Petit came in and he was arrested. Do you know what that means?
No.
Arrested means when the police put handcuffs on you and they take you away.
Yeah.
That's what I do to you guys when you're bad. I put handcuffs on you and I take you to your room, right? But Philippe Petit's only punishment, he didn't go to jail. His only punishment was to perform for school children in Central Park. And he was given a free lifetime pass to the observation deck of the Twin Towers. And do you know why?
Why?
When those buildings were being built in New York City, New Yorkers did not really like them very much. There was an old neighborhood down there called Radio Row. People had all these radio shops, all down where the World Trade Center buildings used to sit. And the city took their shops away so they could build the World Trade Center buildings. And people were not very happy about that. They protested and tried to save their old radio shops, but to no avail. So when those buildings were built, people did not like them. In fact, when they were built, people could not get anybody to actually rent out any of the office space in those buildings.
Could they get in there?
Well, they could get in there, but nobody wanted to go in. They literally thought that they were going to go bankrupt almost immediately when those buildings went up.
What's bankrupt?
Meaning that they could not afford to keep their new buildings open. So Philippe Petit then does his stunt and everything changes. Now, there was a guy who ran the World Trade Center site. His name was Guy Tozzoli. It's a funny name, right? Guy Tozzoli. And he tells his story great. It's really great. He had a thick New York accent. He talked like this. Hey, how you doing? And Guy Tozzoli said, you know, I was sitting in my office on this one day, and all of a sudden the janitor comes in and he says, Mr. Tozzoli, I don't know how to tell you this, but there's a guy walking on a tightrope across the Twin Towers. And I thought to myself, oh my God, if this guy falls, it's going to be horrible for business. But if he lives, it's going to be very special. And he was right. People looked at those buildings differently after Philippe Petit did his walk on the tightrope across the Twin Towers. People, I don't know, believed that once again that we could reach for the sky in New York, that anything was possible. And it was Guy Tozzoli who interceded with the judge, got all the charges dropped, and gave Philippe Petit his free lifetime pass to the observation deck. Isn't that a great story?
Yeah.
And if you guys get a chance, you should buy this children's book called The Man Who Walked Between the Towers. It's one of our favorites, isn't it?
Can you read it now?
I'm going to read it now. I'm going to read it now.
No.
All right, guys. Hope you were all well. Do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yippee.
Yippee.
Yippee. Poo-poo.
Hey, watch out.